Is Meghan Markle really starting to panic after her comments about being a briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal have gotten a lot of negative press? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany and today we're going to be talking about Meghan and the Bimbo comments. Yes. So Meghan Markle made these comments about how she perceived herself as being a bimbo and how she felt objectified while being on Deal or No Deal. And as it turns out, her castmates and other crew members are not too happy about it. In fact, they had a fabulous time and most of them aren't really sure what Meghan's talking about. They're saying this station where they had to examine their hair and their eyelashes and stuff like that, but that's really not true. And there's just this growing backlash against Meghan with these comments and how she really, even though I do think she was talking about herself, she worded it in a way where it could apply to everyone. And we know Meghan is meticulous about what she talks about. So again, it was this thing where she didn't really totally think it through. So I don't necessarily blame her for some of this backlash. However, I think it's starting to make her panic. Things aren't going well for Harry and Meghan. And I think her paparazzi stroll is the latest indication that there's a lot of turmoil going on behind the scenes and things aren't going too well. And ergo, all of a sudden, paparazzi stroll. We haven't had that in at least a year. So that it's come out now is really an indication, I think, of Meghan is returning back to her old Hollywood playbook, although I don't think she necessarily entirely left it. And she's really starting to panic trying to figure out what to do as brand Sussex has not turned out like she's thought in the slightest. So guys, on today's video, I'm going to be going over some of the comments that other women have made about Meghan's bimbo comments. We're going to listen to some of the Archetypes podcasts. I know some of you aren't a fan, but it is good to get the original context. And I'll tell you as well why I think the paparazzi stroll is really a bad sign for where things are at for Harry and Meghan. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany, and on this channel we provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and a bit of gossip too. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be great. I also will be reviewing television shows and movies. We've got The Crown coming up, guys. I'll be getting something together for The Crown, and then I also will be doing a bit of history as well. I'm working on a piece about the two brothers in the towers, a 400 or 500-year-old mystery. And so I'm so excited that there's making some headway about that. So I'm really excited to examine that. We'll be doing some videos on the Waleses and Prince William as he's growing into his role as the Prince of Wales and he's taking a larger part in the coronation. We will be doing the videos on all those things because I know some of you guys are hitting your Harry and Meghan fatigue and I totally get it. So best I can, we will cover other things. Unfortunately, the Waleses are actually out on break this week, in the next couple of weeks, so I don't think we'll get too much of that. Oh, and I will have an October Halloween special coming up. Two royals who really impacted a huge part of Halloween, if you did not know that already. So I am so excited for that. And if you guys like royal fashion as well, you can go ahead and go over to Royal Fashion News where I cover everything related to royals and fashion, including Tiara Tuesdays, and I'll be doing jewelry and various, clothing, shoes, giving you guys even a bit of tips I've learned after watching the royals for a long time. I love their sense of style because it is so professional, classic, modest, and just timeless, and oftentimes, with the exception of Meghan. Vast majority of the time with the exception of Meghan. And speaking of Meghan, ooh, that jumpsuit. I'm sorry to say that will go on my worst dress list next week. I don't think that it can totally be avoided because, yeah, it was bad. But I think it was in a reaction to a rather bad week for Meghan, really. So she had her podcast come out on Tuesday, and there were some negative comments regarding how she kept asking Paris Hilton a bunch of times. So you acted like a Barbie. Do you still do that? Do you still, are you a bimbo? Do you still think of yourself as a bimbo? Do other people still think of you as a bimbo? Meghan was kind of a broken record on that topic. And so there was kind of a bit of backlash after she kind of said her initial comments about Deal or No Deal. My first reaction was, she was talking about, well, I'm forced to do this, and I was objectified and I felt uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, Meghan, that was kind of the point of that. You were a briefcase girl. You guys are like Vanna White, except there's 26 of you or 25 of you instead of just the one. That's kind of the point. Just like The Price is Right also has something similar, and they have men and women now, I believe, too. So it just was like, you kind of knew what you were signing up for, Meghan. It's not like you went to a modeling shoot and all of a sudden they're asking you to take your clothes off. That, to me, that's obviously, if you're going in for modeling, shouldn't you be wearing clothes? Because that's the point, because you're modeling clothes, shouldn't you be? And so it's not like anybody did a bait and switch on her when it comes to Deal or No Deal or anything like that. I think they were very clear and upfront. She had apparently, I think, model in a bikini before she got the job. And so, hey, that was being objectified, being there in short skirts. Hey, that was a huge part of the role. So everybody was like, why are you complaining about that? So after that came out, we had the Variety interview the next day. And so there was a little bit of backlash building, but then kind of the Variety interview sucked things out of the room for a little bit. But as the week went on, more and more the Deal or No Deal girls, briefcase girls who were associated with the show, crew members, they kind of start coming out and going, I'm sorry that Meghan felt that way. That's what some of them definitely did say, but her experience was not mine, not to mention the fact all of them seemed to think that it was a fantastic opportunity. They were treated well by the show, by Howie Mandel, by everybody associated with it. So it seems like it was actually an incredibly good working environment, which that doesn't always happen. And I feel like if that really wasn't the case, we would know about it or would have come out in some way. So I feel like what they're reporting is what really was going on behind the scenes. So what's Meghan talking about? Well, I think, again, I will give her the benefit of the doubt here. I don't think she meant to slander the rest of her castmates. I don't think that's what she meant to do. But there was a very, very easy way she could have avoided that. And I will go into it in this next little bit. So I actually filmed this video the day before, and actually as I was filming it, I was looking for something else and those paparazzi pictures popped up. So you'll actually see me in this next little bit talking about those pictures. So it's like, oh, what do we got here? This is interesting. And you'll see me react to it, but I will go ahead and show you guys some of the footage I filmed yesterday. And so I kind of go over, I play the clips of Meghan's podcast. Now, be forewarned, be absolutely forewarned, I did clip them a bit because of copyright issues. So usually it's about 15 seconds. I can play something in full before I have to cut it. So I did splice quite a bit, especially towards the end, because I had talked about particular little things, but I wanted you guys to get some indication. So be forewarned, if you want to listen to the whole thing, you are absolutely welcome to do that. It's about the first 4 minutes of the podcast. If you want to get the full picture and make the opinion for yourself, I didn't try to take anything away that I felt like really impacted what she said in terms of the interpretation you can make of it. But of course, that is up to you to judge. That is up to you to judge. But I want to be just clear that I did, yes, manipulate the audio a bit, just to make sure, again, I didn't get hit with copyright. So just be forewarned about that. But without further ado, I'm going to show you with my hair up. Even though I'm wearing kind of the same shirt / dress, my hair is up this time, different jewelry. So guys, here's the section I filmed yesterday.
Now, my experience on the show, which included holding said briefcase on stage alongside 25 other women doing the same, it was, for me, fascinating.
So she says her time as a briefcase girl was fascinating, which I find really, really hard to believe. I mean, to some extent it is. I'm sure the only thing fascinating about it is like it was the one job she got as an actress, because she was a really, really crummy actress. And she had struggled for a long, long time before finally getting this in 2006. And I understand why. And I do find it interesting that, again, she kind of throws the show under the bus, which was like the first consistent thing as an entertainer that she had.
I had income. I was part of the union. I had health insurance. It was great. And yet, I had also studied international relations in college.
So she says that this job as a briefcase girl gave her all these things. And yet she also studied international relations in college, which again, sometimes I find difficult to believe. It's not entirely outside the realm of possibility. Some people have said she actually had a degree in communications and not theater, because she mentioned that she had studied theater. But have any of us ever seen any indication she took any of that effort seriously at all? No. And this concept that, well, I studied international relations, I want people to value me for my brain. We'll get back to that.
And there were different stations for having your lashes put on or your extensions put in or the padding in your bra, because there was a very cookie-cutter idea of precisely what we should look like.
So she's talking about how they all had to line up and there was this cookie-cutter-esque beauty to them. And I'm like, yeah, duh. That's, again, the whole point of the show is that they're all dressed alike. They are all entirely dressed alike. This is not rocket science. This should not be a shock to you. They all dressed alike. That was part of the concept of the show. And so this idea that, you know, it was this cookie cutter vision of beauty and we had to get spray tans and we had to get extensions and we had to get nails. I was like, well, so did the models at Victoria's Secret. When they did their fashion show, yes, they also had to get extensions. Yes, they also had to get spray tans. That's kind of the thing. Although I will say I was looking through some of these pictures at a recent, like, some sort of British event, and this one woman, she clearly had a spray tan and did not cover her feet because her feet were like bone white. And like it looks so funny. So I'll post a picture here. I just thought that was hysterical because a lot of people have talked about Meghan Markle and spray tans, and it's like, make sure you spray tan your feet. And I think Jennifer Aniston actually just posted a picture of her getting her feet spray tan. Because yes, you don't want your feet to be rather white and the rest of you to be more on the orange spectrum. That's probably not generally a good idea. But again, it actually makes you look better to have a spray tan. Having a little bit of color for you is good, especially on camera. So it's not like this was the most awful thing in the world. And especially the kind of lights they had and the environment they had, that made a lot of sense. For me, I'm just naturally pale, so I don't want to go tanning. I don't generally spend a ton of time out in the sun, but I would perhaps consider going and getting a spray tan just to kind of warm up my features a bit. But still, I'm not going to, and I'm also on camera, so I'm aware that the camera adds 10 pounds, that you want to look a certain way. So her complaint about this just seems kind of ridiculous to me, because even as a woman on Suits, she would have been required to a certain extent, as most actresses are, to keep a certain weight. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Obviously, that's kind of changed somewhat, but I can tell you from being on camera and from being skinnier than I am right now, it's nicer sometimes when you are thinner. It is nicer. It makes some things a lot easier. So her complaint again here just doesn't make any sense, and they want to make the women look their best, and they want to make sure there's uniformity to them because that is the point.
I'll never forget this one detail. There was a woman who ran the show, and I can still hear her. She couldn't properly pronounce my last name at the time because she would go, "Markle, suck it in. Markle, suck it in."
Of course, she has to go, and this woman didn't know her name, Markle. And I just find that hard to believe, although I do know my last name is technically rather phonetic, and sometimes people like create these really weird things to me, and I'm like, my name is phonetic. It's not that hard, my last name. But at the same time, I'm like, I just don't totally buy this story. And again, it's all like, she's trying to help you. It's like, oh, your stomach's, tuck it in. You're on camera. Like, that's not terrible.
Like I said, I was thankful for the job, but not for how it made me feel. I was surrounded by smart women. That wasn't the focus of why we were there. And I would end up leaving with this pit in my stomach, knowing that I was so much more than what was being objectified on the stage. I didn't like feeling forced to be all looks and little substance.
So she complains that she felt objectified on stage, and that, I was surrounded by smart women and we could not be smart. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. For some women, it's a stopgap between one thing and the other. One woman I was listening to on TMZ was explaining that one of the models was actually a lawyer and actually took the bar and passed it at one turn, and I believe is now a lawyer. So sometimes people do things in between. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, the whole point, ask Vanna White, what's the whole point of her role in Wheel of Fortune? To be the eye candy. Same as Meghan. This is not rocket science. She wants to talk about the word bimbo. But I feel like so many things regarding this podcast is she wants everything to reflect on her and is so focused on her experience that she negated or just didn't think through what impact that could have on the other women who were on Deal or No Deal, and actually considered it a fantastic opportunity and something they really enjoyed. And it sounds like it was a fantastic working environment, and that Meghan kind of threw them all under the bus and basically called them all bimbos through her comments. And I see that. I would be a bit frustrated. And again, and really all Meghan had to do to negate this potential backlash is go, I know part of this role was to be seen in short skirts, and to a certain extent we are eye candy on the screen, so I knew that going in, but after a while I just struggled with the idea that knowing that was part of it, I just didn't realize the impact that would have on me after a period of time. If Meghan had said that, I totally get that. And I think anybody who was a part of the show would understand that. But because of she's not that good with words, really, at the end of the day, she thinks she's a great writer when she really stinks. She didn't really even think through what she wrote or what her producer wrote, because her producer kind of threw her under the bus a couple weeks ago, basically saying she did all the work, which I thought was really funny. But again, it goes back to this idea that Meghan doesn't understand that your words have consequences. And here's some of what the women who were Deal or No Deal girls and thought it was a great experience, a great opportunity, and they don't know what Meghan is necessarily talking about. So here's one of the first women who came out. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm filming this right now, and we just got a picture of the pap walk of shame. Oh, that's so funny. And she looks really bad. I feel like it's taking a toll, guys. I feel like it's taking a toll. That's mean. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. But I don't feel like she definitely, like, compared to this very glamorous, very saintly look on the cover shoot of Variety, she doesn't look very good here. But she's never, hardly ever been paparazzi shot in California. So you know this is a setup. Or that people are really searching for her because whoopsie daisy, you made a big boo-boo. Oh, and then she's smiling and kind of sticking her tongue out at the camera. That's hysterical. That's hysterical. And with the big hat. Oh, man. And they're close to her, so she knows. Oh, and she made sure to turn the bag that said Wendy Foster, so we all knew who she was. Upstairs Angel, guys. I can read the entire bag. It says Wendy Foster, Montecito, Santa Barbara, Los Olivios, Upstairs Angel. Yeah, that's not subtle at all. That is not subtle at all. Apparently, things aren't going well for her. Whoopsie daisy. Whoopsie daisy. That's hysterical. Okay, I'm so sorry. I just happened to see this. I was looking up the Daily Mail article because I was like, okay, I looked up a couple other things, but I forgot about this one. And so I was like, looking, I was like, the paparazzi walk of shame. She's feeling the heat, guys. She is feeling the heat. So this is Real Housewives of Atlanta star Claudia Jordan, who appeared alongside Meghan 41 on the NBC game shows. She was also interviewed by TMZ recently about this too, and she was very complimentary of Meghan, but also criticized her for these comments. And she said on Instagram, for clarity, yes, getting a modeling gig on a games show isn't necessarily about intellect, but every show the executive producers picked 5 models with the most outgoing and fun personalities to place mics on who they knew would engage with the contestants. So we don't have any evidence that Meghan was mic'd up that way, so I wonder if it was partly of she was not that good at it. She wasn't even not that good at being a briefcase girl. She didn't have enough personality. And I think part of it too is there was another comment which I thought was interesting. And I think Meghan thought she was too good for this. She was slumming it in her mind. She was slumming it with this. And she gave an aloof attitude. And I think that the producers thought she was pretty and she did pretty well, but they were like, I don't think she's worthy of getting mic'd up. And Deal or No Deal, she said, so this is Claudia, never treated us like bimbos. We got so many opportunities because of that show. Fremantle and NBC. That's the kind of opportunity that is what you make of it. If you just show up and don't engage, and then you'll just get your check and not get much out of it. But if you show up and seize your moments, then there's no limits to what you can do with the opportunity. I actually enjoyed my experience working on Deal or No Deal. It was a step up on a ladder I've been ascending on for 25 years that paid all my bills, put me in front of 13 plus million people a night, and led to me getting, and it says ... and she probably lists. This isn't an attack on Meghan, because Lord knows I've been defending this woman in the media for years, and I still will. But I just didn't want any misunderstanding about the climate and environment on the Deal or No Deal set. And I'm especially protective of Howie Mandel, who was nothing but kind and respectful to all 26 of us. So what that tells you right there is there's a lot of loyalty to Deal or No Deal. These women were treated well. If they weren't treated well, if they were on the Ellen Show or the Late Late Show with James Gordon, they'd be throwing the show under the bus right now. If they could all get behind Meghan, especially I think Claudia, she would. The problem is she can't. She can't get behind Meghan because she was there and she was treated with nothing but respect. She was treated well. The show treated her well. And clearly people thought it was a fantastic opportunity and fantastic role. And it's just one of those things where it's like Meghan kind of kicked the wrong horse here. She really thought that nobody would care, nobody would look into this, nobody would be like, that was Meghan's experience. But again, Meghan didn't use the language I suggested, which was to say, I knew this going in, but after a while, it was hard for me. I would appreciate that. That would make sense to me because I've never been that skinny, so I couldn't be on a game show, honestly. I could be like the host, and if I lost about another 40 pounds again, I would be in good shape. But if she was like the host of the game, where was I going with that? If the point of her was to kind of be the host like Mayim Bialik or something, sure, her brains would be accepted, but that wasn't the point. And again, it sounds like everybody was treated exceptionally well. And that to me tells me that it was a good working environment in Hollywood. It was a really good working environment. And bravo to Howie Mandel and the whole staff and team of Deal or No Deal for doing that. I think the problem Meghan Markle was dealing with, especially right before she married Harry, is that she wasn't necessarily all that nice and the deals weren't coming through because A, she was a bad actress, and B, she was very difficult to work with. And that gets around. And that's why I don't think we see a ton of people actually defending her. So another former briefcase girl, Donna Feldman, said, I disagree that I or anyone on the show was ever treated like a bimbo. Of course, you know what you're signing up for when you're hired as a briefcase beauty, Feldman said. I have gotten opportunities in my career based off the way I look. But it's my brains, personality, and work ethic that help seal the deal and get me the job and get clients to continue hiring me on a regular basis. It's up to a woman to decide what experiences will empower her or use it as an excuse to seek attention. Oh, burn, burn. I love that because again, that's so true. Yes, you can start off being a briefcase girl, but if you leverage your opportunity well, if you're kind to everybody, if you work with people, guess what? Eventually it may develop into something bigger. And everyone has a step up. I've worked jobs that was like, definitely was not the best in the world. I've worked retail, it stinks sometimes. Sometimes it's nice because it's kind of easy and you can kind of go home afterwards. But I always try to be nice to retail people and people working in restaurants because I know it's a tough gig. It's not for everybody. So I try to be really respectful of those who are working in those roles because I know perhaps maybe that's just a stepping stone on them for something else. It was for me. But you know how I got to where I am, which is not only this channel, but I've done, I would say, fairly well in my career. Part of it is at the beginning, I was kind of like, trying to make my degree work. With a history degree, it is hard. People don't know quite what to do with you. But it was like my perseverance going, okay, I want to learn social media. I want to learn how to write better, write editorially. I knew how to write research papers, but I didn't know how to write editorially. And I've learned how to edit videos. I know how to edit audio. I know how to do all these different things because I push. So generally started off at a pretty low paying position, but within a couple years, I managed to double my salary. And it wasn't just because I just decided, I was just going to hang out there. It's part of ambition. It's about leveraging that opportunity to create something better for yourself. And I think for any young woman who's growing up or about to enter college, about to enter the career field, here's the thing. You got to work hard. Nobody else is going to open the doors for you. You have to open them yourself. And that requires sometimes taking a leap of faith. You have to be really nice to people. One of the reasons I got kind of an internal job change is because I happened to be close with the woman who was actually over that department. And I wanted to kind of move to where I was to more of a communications role. And she knew me, we had chatted, we had lunch together, and she was really excited about bringing me on board. And it was both really good and then didn't end up being all that I hoped it would be, but I learned so much. And that was an opportunity I pursued. And I said, I'm going to learn an X, Y, and Z skill. And it ended up being really helpful. But we were told in the Tom Bower book that Meghan didn't want to learn those kind of skills because she was offered by one of her theater coaches, apparently, or theater professors, to say, well, if you want to study this seriously, I'm willing to help you do that. And Meghan didn't want to. She didn't want to get better. So I think at the end of the day, she really only has herself to blame. And you know what, to be fair, she turned her briefcase girl stint into a marriage into the royal family. So, I mean, what does she have to complain about? Would she have ever met Harry if she didn't finally land Suits and be making enough money to give half her salary to Sunshine Sachs to promote her to heck so that somehow she could wind up in these high-ranking English fields? Probably not. She also goes on to say, so this is still Donna, it wasn't the best feeling for any of the women's self-esteem, but you have to remind yourself that you were hired for your presence and your positivity. I would say I did well for somebody supposedly hired to be a quote-unquote bimbo. I love that. She's like, I was hired to do this, but I didn't feel like a bimbo. It sometimes was hard to be not wearing a lot of clothes on a television camera. That was difficult and an audience and everything, but you know what? I transformed this into something great. So bravo to her. Bravo to her. I think that is fantastic. What I should say is I feel like Meghan, her challenges in life are just like too overwhelming. She doesn't know how to turn a challenge into a positive. Patricia Cara, who starred on every episode of Deal or No Deal, told the Post that she doesn't remember being treated like a bimbo. She does, however, recall Markle as being nice and quiet, but mostly keeping to herself. So I saw that and I wondered, I was like, I bet you Meghan just thought she was too good for the role or too good for any of this. She was just quiet and quietly seething that she was forced to degrade herself to this role because nobody was hiring her for Oscar caliber work. And again, you have to work, you have to be good at it. If Meghan said, I'm gonna take acting classes, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna hone my skill, I would say bravo. I would give her the best of luck. But so far, all I hear is from Meghan all the time is a lot of hot air. She talks about how great she is, but I see little evidence of that. And I mean, honestly, there's really easy ways to fix that. Just work on your acting. Just try it again and again and again because you will get better. Again, it's not easy. Not saying it's easy in the slightest. I've worked on writing. It's not fun to get a paper back or an article back with a ton of red marks. It really stinks. And sometimes I probably wasn't the best at taking some of it. Internally, I would see, then I'm gonna go, okay, fine, you're right. Sometimes I would push back and go, no. But those were rare instances because most of the time people were right. So it's just, again, Meghan not appreciating any of these opportunities, thinking she was too good for it. It's unfortunate that not everyone can find happiness in the things they decide to do, said of Markle's negative comments about her time on the show, noting she's the only model to appear in all 3 versions of the show. I remember a group of hardworking, strong-minded, independent women that found success in the entertainment industry. Bravo, that's fantastic. They needed a leg up and hey, got them somewhere. And who knows, you could be like, don't know how much Vanna White makes per year. I bet you she makes a pretty penny and she's been doing that job. And granted, it's not a job that requires, much intellectual brain power, but hey, maybe she reads a book a week at home. Just because perhaps that job is not as brain empowering as you think it is, doesn't mean it's bad necessarily, or that you're unintelligent. And let's not forget, what did Meghan do right after Deal or No Deal? Well, she was giving a blowjob in a car on a television show, or mimicking it, not actually doing it. But it's like, well, you didn't want to be objectified on the show, and yet you do that. And then her sex scene in Suits is graphic. For still having their clothes on, like the way he pulls her dress down, hikes her dress up. I mean, it's pretty explicit. There's movements. It's very explicit, I would feel like, for a cable show. And somebody told me on Twitter, they're like, yeah, it suits a family-friendly show. And it's like, do you have children? Would you allow your 8-year-old to watch that? Lisa Gleave is another one who came out against Meghan. The Australian model insisted Meghan was not treated like a bimbo and praised the show for giving its briefcase girls a chance to secure other opportunities in showbiz. Cleve told The Times, I didn't like the comment she made. She may have felt that way because of who she was or who she was trying to be, but she was not treated like a bimbo. The model suggested that if Meghan did not want to be judged on her looks, she should have not have applied to go on the show. She said, quote, the game show that we were on, Deal or No Deal, was all about beauty and glamour. If she didn't want to put herself in that position, then why did she? She questioned, adding that she personally never felt objectified. Gleave went on to say, had Meghan not appeared on the show, she may not have met the Duke of Sussex, and she may not have been cast on Suits. Very, very true. And the wardrobe person for this show also came out and defended the show and felt very upset about this. And she said, to know me is to know I love my work. It's been a rough week watching a show I love so much be criticized. I had the privilege to design the looks for Deal or No Deal for all the women and, of course, Howie Mandel. It was one of the most wonderful, challenging, high-profile gigs of my career, and I loved every minute of it. Everyone on the show, from my wardrobe team to the producers, to crew, hair, and makeup, Howie, and especially the models, all worked so very hard to make shows the best they could be for the contestants and the fans who adored it. I've thought a lot about this. I wouldn't change a thing. We all know how lucky we were and how special our TV family was. There was a mission at work to do the best we could, take care of our full team, and treat everyone with respect they earned and deserved. The women gained such amazing opportunities, not only to change the lives of the contestants who came on the show for a chance to win $1 million, but also for the opportunities they gained from being seen in millions of people's homes each week. From hosting and being on other television shows to being on Oprah, dig at Meghan, to starting businesses and more. It was a launch pad for so many of the women, many of whom I am in touch with to this day. Also, let's not overlook, this was all pre-social media and cameras on cell phones. I can't imagine what they could have accomplished if they had those tools at their fingertips. I'm proud to have been part of the show and the Deal or No Deal family, and always will be. The end. And then we also had this video from a current model, I believe.
I wanted to jump on really quick and discuss this. Meghan Markle says that she was reduced to a bimbo while on Deal or No Deal. And although I was not on Deal or No Deal with her, I was Case 25 on the reboot, and we had a lot of the same team that she worked with, I worked with also. And I just want to say how amazing, especially the stylist was at making sure that we felt empowered, but also comfortable. Howie, producers, makeup artists, everybody were so respectful and so loving. I also felt like the audition process, they picked girls not just for how they looked, but women that had a lot going on and were smart and bright. And that's why we all get along really well. I still talk to a lot of those girls that are amazing. So just want to throw that out there.
Okay, guys, so just taking into account what Meghan has said and what the women have said, it's just, there's clearly something adding up. And like I said in the video, I really think, kind of based on the way one of the women talked about Meghan was on that show thinking she was too good for it the entire time and didn't really try to engage much with anyone. This was very much like her time in the royal family. She thought she was too good for them, too smart for them. She didn't really care to engage, develop relationships with anyone. I think that's because she had Hollywood directly on her mind. She was like, well, I'll just get the little bit that I need, and then me and Harry will split, and then all of a sudden I will finally be taken seriously in Hollywood. She was not unsuccessful because nobody took her seriously or she didn't get the break she deserved or something like that. She just frankly lacked the talent. I think as well too, people are recognizing the hypocrisy. People are calling it out more and more, going, you were not forced, you were well paid, you were well compensated, why are you complaining about it? And that's how we end up at the paparazzi stroll. She's in Montecito. She's in actually clothes that are not that pricey. Her bag is probably pricey, but the rest of it actually wasn't too bad. The horrendous jumpsuit, which many have compared to either MC Hammer pants or a diaper, is only a couple $100s. It was on sale. Apparently now it's sold out, but if it was on sale already, they may have been mostly sold out to begin with. Then she had a hat which was only a little over $100, and then she had a Ralph Lauren sweater, so that was kind of cheap too. I'm not sure about her shoes, and her bag was expensive. It was Chloe, and so were her sunglasses. But it was like all of a sudden she's like kind of doing this more down home thing, very casual, because she's gotten criticized a lot for wearing clothes worth obscene amount of money. When she was at the Invictus Games, her new wardrobe cost at least $65,000. $65,000, and most of it did not look flattering on her. And so all of a sudden she's shopping, she's like, okay. I mean, her outfit to the Invictus Games at one of the events where she was wearing jeans, those were like $500 jeans. And so that, part of that outfit cuts under that. So I feel like Meghan all of a sudden is like, okay, let me show, I'm down home, I'm shopping with my girlfriend, and we're going, although they are going to a very expensive boutique in Montecito, but it was still very much to me an attempt to do some damage control, to try to change the narrative, to try to get people off of the bimbo thing. Although I think it just amplified it, but of course, because you could definitely tell she was not wearing a bra with that jumper, which was not the best idea. There are ways to avoid that, Meghan. There are ways to avoid that. But it was this attention thing, me, look at me, don't look at the negative press, look at me. I think it reacted, it does both ways because it does change the media narrative, although I will say I had a huge growth in Twitter followers after I posted my thoughts on that it was clearly a damage control measure. But I think it's clear that things are not going as well as Meghan and Harry would like you to think behind the scenes. A couple people mentioned that we didn't see actually her wedding jewelry, so her wedding ring and band on in the photo shoot, nor did we see the tank watch. And I think maybe she had taken, no, I think she still had the Cartier bracelet on, the love bracelet, which is so influencer-y, I feel like. I mean, there's a part of me that kind of wants one because so many people have them, but at the same time, I see Meghan with it and I go, you're royal. Why are you doing something everybody else is doing? Not only everybody else, but it's so influencer-y. But that is, I think, at the heart of who Meghan is. She's an influencer style people. Now, I guess I'm criticizing myself because I've gotten in a little bit of that vein as well, but I feel like the benefit I have is that I'm providing knowledge, not just selling you something. But I feel like kind of looking at all this, Meghan is like, okay, let's change the narrative. Me out shopping. Breaking news. It also deflects from the fact that apparently their Netflix thing is not going well, because Meghan said in her Variety interview, well, it's good, but it's not the story we wanted to tell. So it's not even out, and she's already throwing it under the bus. She's saying, it's not that good. It's not what we wanted. It doesn't reflect us the way we want to. So it's like, well, that's not very good. That's not good for Netflix. That's not good for Harry and Meghan. It's not good for the director. It makes the director look bad. It makes people question Netflix. So it wasn't good of her to do that. I'm sure she's getting heat from Netflix for doing that. She even said in the Variety interview that all she and Harry do are scroll trying to find something to watch. It's like, you did know that you are actually paid by a streaming service, and that they want you to tout their shows. Like, you do know that. And she said White Lotus, which is HBO Max. So it's like, do you not watch or like anything Netflix is producing? Well, that's a problem. Because you're tied to Netflix. Netflix is paying you. HBO Max isn't paying you. And then you also got the questions too about Harry's memoir. Were they allowed to make any edits? Will they be allowed to make any edits? Or are they basically saying, I know it's hard for you that you've damaged your relationships with your family, but we paid you. You submitted your manuscript. It's kind of done. It's kind of a done deal now. If it damages your family relationships, hey, that's on you. That's not on us. And then you have the question too about the coronation. What role will Harry and Meghan have, if any? As private citizens, I imagine they will not be in the front row at Westminster Abbey. I imagine they will not get to wear a crown or tiara because they're not working members of the royal family and they have really no influence, and Charles very much wants a slimmed down version. So I think Harry and Meghan's role will be minimal. They may not even appear on the balcony. That may be just Charles and the Waleses. So I don't think necessarily things are going as well as Harry and Meghan would like behind the scenes. So what does Meghan do? She reverts to her diva status. Paparazzi stroll. Get a picture of me, because this is what everybody needs, is a picture of Meghan Markle out shopping in a very expensive boutique where the gift cards start at $100. So as you can imagine, probably the cheapest thing in there is at least $100. And that might actually be the cheapest thing as a gift card. What I think is really sad at the end of the day, though, is that Harry vastly overestimated Meghan's potential in terms of being a producer, an actress, a creative, all these sorts of things that Meghan told Harry she was really good at. Apparently she's not. She's not, because they would have been able to produce something by now. And I think they're struggling, and I don't think they're getting a lot of sympathy behind the scenes, because everybody's like, this is on you. We need to move in a different direction. We are professionals, and Harry and Meghan, not so much. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon. Bye.